Yesterday, some additional information came out about Brianna's case, and it came out as a result of search warrants that have been served, administered, and signed by the court, and then served by our detectives. The search warrant was signed on February 19th, just a few days after the incident that wounded Brianna. The search warrant was for telephone records because as a result of numerous interviews that detectives had done, a person of interest came to our attention, and that person was Jorge Calleras, who lived on the same street that Brianna lives on. That information came to us. We served a search warrant and received telephone records. However, there is not enough evidence based on the return of this search warrant in our service that allows us to file charges against him at this point. So he is not wanted at this time. We're continuing the investigation. We certainly haven't ruled anybody out in this case. And we want to make sure that the public knows that we still need information about this case to help us to be able to file charges and for the district attorney's office to be able to prosecute beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what we need. The level of that we need to serve a search warrant is probable cause. To prosecute, we need beyond a reasonable doubt. So we continue to work very, very hard on this case. The night that the search warrant was signed, Calleras turned himself into his probation officer. He made a contact with him to check in. He was actually taken into custody by probation for violation of his probation for keeping in contact with known gang members, which he is prohibited from doing as conditions of his probation. He spent time in the Fresno County Jail until he served his time for violation of that probation, at which time he left the Fresno County Jail, and we are continuing this investigation. Again, we haven't ruled anybody out. We are still looking at any suspects that might be out there. Again, ask the public for information that might help us. We believe there are people in the community of Parlier that can help us and give us that information that we need to, in fact, make an arrest and prosecute on Brianna's case. We aren't giving up, and we won't give up. We'll continue to be relentless on this case until it's solved. Are there any questions?
You're still offering the reward, right?
Absolutely. The reward is still out there for information that leads to an arrest and conviction on this case. The reward is significant through Crime Stoppers as well as the community of Parlier. So the reward is still out there for people to give us information, and it's available.
Can you remind me the amount, the total amount, please?
Yeah, the total amount is $9,000, $5,000 from Crime Stoppers, and $4,000 through the community of Parlier. The number to call if you have information is the Crime Stoppers number, 498-STOP.
His probation, is it due to gang activity priors?
His violation of probation is as a result of his continued communication with known gang members. He is a gang member, and he was prohibited from that kind of activity, and that's why he was violated.
Search warrant, can you talk about the search warrant, what was found at the residence or on him?
Well, the search warrant was for telephone records. It wasn't for a place, it was for telephone records. So we were able to get those records, but again, there's nothing that was really help us to the level that we're able to make an arrest.
Can you confirm what gang he's affiliated with?
Yes, I'll tell you after this press conference.
Okay. And can you say anything about how long he was detained?
He was just released last week. I can't remember the day. Friday. So from the 19th to last Friday is how long he was in custody, and he served his violation time.
And was it tips that kind of led to him being a person of interest, or what was the reason for tracking him down?
It was as a result of the detectives asking questions and interviewing witnesses and people in the neighborhood about activity that night as well as prior activity that had occurred on that street led us to obtaining the search warrant.
Has he been known to use weapons before in his gang activities?
He has. It was reported to us that he was in fact in possession of a weapon at one point. but we have not recovered any weapons.
Are there any other people kind of in his situation who would be considered a person of interest?
There are other individuals that have gotten our attention. Again, we haven't ruled out anybody, and we'll continue to ask the public for help in leading us to interviewing other people that we need to.
I don't know if this is going to be released, but is there a relationship between him and the victim's family?
Other than living on the same street, no.
You said that Jorge Callares is already released, right? He was released on Friday.
Correct.
Is he still in as a person of interest or not?
He will continue to be a person of interest for us. We're not going to rule anybody out at this point. So if the investigation leads to him, that's where we'll go. If it leads to somebody else, that's where we'll go. We don't come to a conclusion and then work to that conclusion. We go where the evidence leads us.
And can you tell us anything more about the crime scene that hasn't been released? You said no weapons haven't been recovered. Is there anything that points to what kind of weapons they were, other specific crimes?
Yes, in the search warrant, and it's now public information, what's in the search warrant, there were several .22 caliber shell casings at the scene, and there were several 9mm spent shell casings found at the scene in 2 different locations, which leads us to believe there was an exchange of gunfire.
Was he found with a weapon at all?
No.
So the public, you said it's public information, so is it leading to she was in the crossfire?
The information is that she and her mother were innocently at a location where gunfire between people and were involved, and she was innocently injured when one of the bullets went through the windshield of her vehicle.
So then detectives are hoping to identify multiple subjects or suspects then?
We want to know who was involved in that shooting. People that might have been involved in the shooting may not be responsible for Brianna's injury. So if there is somebody out there that might have seen something or been involved even peripherally that might help us solve this, we're asking them to come forward.